Hello everyone, it's Peter here, Piotr Festner. How are you doing, guys? Hello. So, I would like to tell you about a different version of PS5 which you will see. It's a newer one. So, in those PS5s, at the back of the main board, you've got components as well. And some time ago, I started to use different method, and I was changing HDMI ports, and I start to like it, but I wanted to test with variety of mainboards. And I've noticed that when I'm using this technique, it's less thermal shock for the main board to get onto it before you melt the port when you put in it or when you take it. Now there is a danger, so there is a caveat to that. If you're a beginner, you shouldn't use this technique. Why it's so? Because if you melt ground pads and you will start to pull port, you can pull with all the pads or part of the pads. They can go off from the board. Yes, so it's not for beginners. But if you are semi-pro, you start to feel confident about it, and you've got some consoles which you can afford, and I'm not talking about those like PS3. We've got a PS3 Slim I was doing the other day here, so you had probably some video about with pins down to the board, but with those pins like when they are flat in the HDMI port. So what's happening is when you use your iron, like me T12, yes, if I can heat up the ground pads, now I'm using only a bit of a heat gun and this port is going off quicker, and I'm using it from both sides. So literally it's taking me about 5 minutes to heat up the board to the level that the port is going off. Whereas if I'm doing this technique, it's taking me probably 2-3 minutes, and I don't heat up so much of the main board. I just heat up those ground pads, and when they catch the temp, they don't let go this temp so easily. So what's happening when I'm approaching with high temperature now from the heat gun, it's quicker melting. So if you just get the practice with it, you don't spend so much on heating and heating and heating this board, yes? The last video when I was recording about replacement of the ports, I was just starting with that technique. I had my first attempt, so I wasn't yet as confident as I am doing now, and I can see that that's the top-notch technique for HDMI port replacement, using your iron, adding solder, heating up. When it's extremely hot, the port itself, it will melt without like a butter, no problem, like a melting butter. But T12, yes, T12 max temp and max power. Then the second ground, the same story, you add solder and you melt, and then you do it several times on them, and then you come with hot air, and it's not a long time, literally, and you can easily take off that port. Keep in mind, in where those 19 pins is, you need to heat it up as well, because if you don't, you will pull and rip these parts away. And that's the opposite way as well. My wife was helping me today, because I've heat up ground pads when I was placing the port back on. Heat up, add solder, heat up, and then I start to use hot air, and she still holded the iron, yes, T12 iron, and she was going on to the pads, and it was seconds pretty much. Let's call it a minute just for the argument's sake, when it's done. And then it's saving you when you've got newer, I'll show you, PlayStation 5, this newer board has components on the other side, so let's look at it. Okay, here, hop. Okay, and we need to go into, where are we? Okay, so it's here. Oh, I've got magnifying, too much magnification. Okay, let's correct it. So you see you've got components here, and if you would use a regular technique, you can blow them off, yes, no problem. 1, 2, 3, 4. This diode is piece of cake, yes, because it's just the diode. But this capacitor, I even don't know what the value is of that capacitor to be true. Yes, so this is done, and that that I was able to do with just a single tap. Like I just pressed it, and when I've pressed it, look, they are even, I don't know if you can see that, but they are golden at the top. I didn't have to correct them. They are in the margin of error. That means they are not needing correction. Okay, so you can see that none of them, I've checked with a meter, none of them connecting in between each other, so which is good, and all of them have proper readings, and I didn't lose this small capacitor. I've got them in stock, but you know, I didn't lose it, so I didn't have to replace it. Yes, it's stiff still. So you see that the good thing is that although they move these components here, yes, and you don't have them, they are on the second side, you still don't have to burn this, you know, like really badly, and it's holding really well. You've seen how much solder is pushed out on the other side. I don't have to even add here more solder. So guys, this technique is for me top-notch technique. I don't know of a better technique than this one. It's the quickest, the most efficient, and you don't heat up the board so much. So it's my favorite technique for now. And you can see how to deal with those boards which have components on the other side and you can't use a lot of heat. Plus you overheating the board is not good. Whenever you're overheating the board is not good. So, you know, this technique can save yourself or customers board. That's it in this video, guys. I know it's only 6 minutes, so thank you for watching. If possible, let's fix them all, and see you in the next one. Yo!